Good afternoon. Welcome to the first meeting of the Charter Revision Commission for year 2011. I guess we're still in 2011. We'll call the meeting to order. I think the first item of business is introduction of the members of the commission. So Dennis, maybe we can start down with you and you can introduce yourself and maybe give us a little information.
Dennis Anitson, I own A&B business. Lived in Sioux Falls since 1876. Married. Got 4 children and are involved in the community. Dennis Anitson, Sioux Falls. I own A&B business. I'm married. I have 4 children and very involved in the Sioux Falls community and happy to be part of this committee.
I'm Dee Knudsen, and I actually moved to Sioux Falls 1976 also, like my colleague. And I only have 2 children, however. I'm a former city councilor and very involved in the community also, and look forward to working with this group.
Bob Timian, I'm the newcomer. We moved in '78 to Sioux Falls. My wife Joan's an RN. I've been with the Ramcota Company since 1985. Would like to consider myself active in the community, but with these 2, I'd have to say maybe not quite as much. But and we have 3 children.
Pauline Politis, I'm retired. I've been here since '66. I acted with the League of Women Voters and in the original change of government and adoption of the charter.
My name is Dick Gregerson. I was raised here, and then I was gone for a while and came back to Sioux Falls in 1963, and I've been practicing law since with the firm of Woods, Fuller, Schultz, and Smith. I was on this commission the last round, and I enjoyed it very much, and I know you 4 will also enjoy it, so welcome.
I guess the first order of business, I'm Dave Feifley, I'm the city attorney. I've been here since, born and raised since 1968. Actually, I live in the same house I grew up in, so I've only moved down the hall in all my life. So, by ordinance, I'm what's called your ex officio member and legal advisor, and I'm pleased to serve in that capacity. Just a few items here. The Charter Revision Commission has been convened approximately 5 times in the history of the city. The charter was adopted back in September of 1994, and it went into effect in January of 1995. So we've been living under this system of government for approximately 16 years. For the viewing public, the charter is essentially our constitution, and it delineates exactly what the powers are of the mayor and the council and so forth, and it's called a home rule charter, and that's based on a state constitution amendment that happened back in about 1967 that allowed communities to create their own form of government, and that the different roles of government would actually supersede statute itself, and so it empowered communities across the state to garner as much of the powers as possible that they could on a local level, and I think it's worked very well over the years. And some of you have been actively involved in either its adoption, and we thank you for it, and we thank you for your continued support of this process. And like anything, a constitution or a charter is kind of a living document, and maybe it needs some tweaks, and that's kind of what this group is here for, to do that. I guess first thing I would call for is maybe an election of a chair and a vice chair so that I don't have to do a lot of talking. So I guess, Dick, you've been the prior chair. If I could turn it over to you to kind of talk about kind of that role.
Yeah, I'd like to have you 2 also introduce yourself, because you'll be part of our team.
I'm Tamara Jorgensen. I'm an assistant city clerk for the city council. And it's my honor to serve you guys again this year.
And I'm Carrie Hansel. I'm a paralegal with the city attorney's office and will also serve as clerk for this board.
Well, we can't operate without you three. So. Well, the first item then will be election of chair and vice chair. So, are there any?
I would like to nominate Pauline Politis to be our chair for the new Charter Revision Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further appointments? Okay, we'll vote on Pauline then. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next is the vice chair.
I nominate Dick, since he has some experience, Dick Grierson, since he has some experience with the committee, and I think he'd be a great vice chair.
I'll second that nomination.
Well, I appreciate the honor, but I would prefer not. I was chair last time, and I think someone should probably, beside me, take over.
I nominate Bob Timian to be our vice chair of this Charter Revision Commission.
Okay,
I'd second that.
okay. Any further nominations for vice chair? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. I'm going to switch seats with you now.
I depend on you.
You want to move over to just those? Should we have a second chair, or does it not matter?
It doesn't. Next meeting, we can do it that way.
I guess we would get right on with new business and scheduling of meetings. Suggestions.
Madam Chair, by ordinance, we're required to have one public meeting every calendar year. And reviewing a lot of what's transpired in the other 5 commissions over the years, and I had emailed this to you folks in advance, I think we need to have at least one other meeting this calendar year in December. And I think we could get a lot done if we have, the city council, the city departments, and the public are aware that this commission is now convening. I'm assuming we're going to request public input, and I think if we had one meeting in December that we could entertain, I guess, whatever revision ideas may be coming from those different groups, that would be a good time to do it. There's an election in April of 2012, and to be able to meet that deadline in terms of if there are going to be some revisions that we want to propose to the voters on your behalf, we would need to get a report to the council and get that all finalized by the end of January, probably at the latest. And certainly from what I've seen in prior, and Dick can certainly chime in on this too, from what I've seen, I think we need about 1 or 2 meetings before we finalize a report based on whatever input we get. So I would suggest at least 1 meeting in December and at least 2 for January.
What is the notice qualification for a meeting? Is there a notice requirement as to how much time we have to give before a
Notice
public
for
meeting?
this meeting?
For a public meeting?
Yes, it's 24 hours.
Oh,
Madam Chair, I suggest that we set our next meeting for 2 weeks from now, before we get any closer to the holidays, and at least for conversation purposes with busy people, I suggest December 14th, that's a Wednesday at 3:30, and give that our best shot.
How does that look?
I have a conflict. I have a 3:30 meeting on that day.
And I'm sure open to other changes. I think after a point, and 14th is not sacred to me for any reason, but I think with such busy schedules, even as much time as Carrie spent trying to get us together for one meeting, at some point, I think if even 3 to 4 of us can be here, the rest of us can watch on Channel 16 or whatever, but Bob, why don't you suggest something a little bit better than the 14th?
Even if we could move that to 4 o'clock.
Well, maybe a better day works better for you.
And we aren't locked into 3:30 either. If there's a time
Yeah, I
frame
know.
that works
I mean,
better
don't-
for everyone.
Don't make it too hectic for you. Is there a better day? I mean, I just wanted to get us going on this kind of thing.
Monday afternoons and Friday afternoons were good for me.
They're good for you.
Because I'm out of the office a lot during the week, so I'm in town on Mondays and Fridays.
Mondays won't work here because the council
City
has
council.
meetings here Monday, so that would be an off day.
But the 14th works for me currently, so.
Madam Chair, can I interject too?
Yes.
I think we've already discussed, Dennis, I mean, if you want to appear telephonically, and any one of the rest of you too, we can make that happen. I know a lot of you are busy traveling on the road. I know prior commissions, we had someone that was traveling in Europe extensively, and he was able to at least appear telephonically and be involved. I mean, if that would work and add some flexibility, as long as you're able to phone in, would that work?
Yep.
Yeah.
The 16th would work well for me. That Friday, since you said
That-
Fridays, Dennis?
Let me look here. Just a second.
Does that work for you? Dick?
Yes. The 16th, 4 o'clock or 3:30?
Yeah, I think I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay on the 16th? Mm-hmm. Yes,
Does that
I'm
work?
okay.
Do you want to stay with do we want to stay with a 3:30 time period just to get people used to what time we meet, or not a big deal, but I'm just thinking, or Dick, did you prefer 4? Did you prefer 4 o'clock?
No, it doesn't make any difference.
What about 3:30 that day?
Does that work? That works here? Okay. 3:30 on the 16th.
Yep.
Do you want to check on any future ones also? January?
If we could get at least one, Madam Chair, at least one more for
Okay.
January, first part of January.
So Dennis, Mondays or Fridays work for you?
Fridays are good for me.
Should we, going into busy holiday schedule, should we go ahead and get a couple of January dates set, and that's more helpful for the public also? Is I'm going to suggest, I'm going to stay with the Friday schedule for right now to help Dennis, because I'm flexible myself on that, is I'm going to suggest the 13th and 27th of January. I know I'm out of state on the 13th, but I think the commission can meet without me. I'm quite sure they can. And I'm going to suggest the 13th and the 27th of January at 3:30 for conversation purposes.
Okay.
Is that
If
on-
we do need
are
to
Fridays.
vote, if we do need to vote, all 5 need to be present, correct?
We'll talk about that in terms
Okay.
of, and I guess in the past, what they've done, and Dick, you can chime in too, is that if it's been a non-substantive matter, just a majority of those present. If it's a substantive matter, in essence, something that's going to go on the ballot to the voters, then it requires what they call a supermajority, and at least 4 voting yes.
Right.
So that's been done in the past, but it's completely up to this group how you want to handle it.
Well, Madam Chair, what we did too, we felt that everybody should vote on it. When we were recommending a change in the charter, that everybody should be involved in that vote, so.
But I mean, you guys really, from a practical standpoint, though, at the point that we have very much to vote on, I mean, we can all be here. I'm just saying, I know that I'm gone the 13th, but I am very, very comfortable with us meeting without me, because, I mean, we'll play this calendar game forever if we don't set
Yeah.
a couple dates. I mean, when I was on city council, we weren't always here for major issues, and we still,
And we can
Went
do
forward.
telephone.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
well, and computers, and, I mean, not a big deal.
I'm going to be out of state on the 13th as well.
Yeah, I have a meeting already scheduled all day on the 13th, but the 27th is fine with me.
The 27th is fine with me.
Okay.
27th at 3:30?
Okay.
Let's do
That's fine.
3:30.
How would the 17th work for people?
17th on a Tuesday?
Tuesday the 17th.
I have no problem with that, I'm fine.
And I'm fine on the 17th also.
That's-
Probably not for me. One of my problems is I go up to the legislature, and they'll be in session probably
How about the
on that.
10th?
The 10th? Well, I think they start the 10th.
Oh.
But I can't be at every one either.
Okay, how about the first week in January? I mean, just again, so we can get another January meeting set. I'm not here on the 6th, but like I said, I'm fine with you meeting on the 6th without me. I'm fine with us meeting on the 4th or the 5th before legislature begins.
Preferences? I'm open for all of them.
I can do the 4th, I can't do the 6th.
I can do the 4th or the 5th.
Yeah.
Same here. I can do either.
So can do the 4th?
Okay, let's do Wednesday the 4th at 3:30.
Wednesday at 3, the 4th?
4th.
3:30, okay.
So the other one is going to be on the 6th,
27th.
27th
27th?
And the 4th.
at 3:30.
Okay, then on to B.
Well, just pardon me, I'm sorry, but now the 16th is going to be in December.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then we don't have any more, and then the next one will be the 4th of January,
And then the 27th.
and the 27th of January.
And they're all at 3:30.
Yep, and I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and email those dates out to you again so you can make sure that you have them back at your offices and homes too.
Now, as we get closer, are some meetings scheduled later for the public access? Better access for the public to come? As we get closer to finalizing, if we are, the wording and that type of thing? Public input? Did you do that in the past?
What's that?
Like meetings after 5 o'clock so that the public would be open for the
Yeah, I
public
think we,
to come?
didn't we do that once for that very purpose?
Okay,
I think we scheduled one evening one the last time you
Yeah.
met.
okay.
You know, Madam Chair, one other thing we did, we limited the meetings to 1 hour. And sometimes there could be a situation where you go over, but I don't think we ever went over. We're pretty firm on that. So
Okay. That sounds good to me.
it can stop some needless talk.
Madam Chair, regarding evening meetings, I mean, I'm very open to evening meetings, quite used to them, actually. But I think I think that it's so easy anymore for us, for the public, to give us input, email-wise, phone call-wise, whatever, I've not been on this commission before, but most of the time I was on city council, I wouldn't say that this commission attracted what you would call very much foot traffic. And so again, I'm all for public input, but we do not get that many people in here with suggestions, unfortunately. Either that or the charter is so good.
Okay, next we have on the agenda consideration of whether and/or when to extend invitations for input from the mayor, city council members, city directors, and the public.
And that invitation to me is immediate. I mean, immediate.
Okay. Any other?
I would think if we're going to be looking at public input on the 16th, that would be good to have that invitation for the 16th.
Okay?
I would agree.
Okay. Dick? Okay.
Madam Chair, could I suggest that we do a press release in calling for input from those groups, and then also we'll then advertise again kind of when the meeting dates are. So
Okay.
we'll have a lot of, as much notice as possible to get that input to this commission.
Okay, should I take a vote on this? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And next, what I had mentioned before, ground rules for the commission votes, majority versus supermajority. Thoughts? I think it was supermajority before, right? 4?
So when you're saying majority versus supermajority, it's 3 versus 4. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we proceed with supermajority for our, as far as our voting is concerned, sending something on to the voters.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
With just clarification, by supermajority, we mean 4 out of the 5 votes.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and we have taken care of future meeting dates.
Madam Chair, can I go back to that part about input? I think what we've done in the past is have where folks can submit written submissions and have it be at least 3 days in advance of a meeting so that you folks have a chance to look at it and digest it a little bit so you're not looking at it cold when you come here. And then also that allows perhaps folks who can't make it here, like Dee was referring to, they can at least submit a written proposal to this group, and I would suggest
Okay.
maybe adopting that policy as well.
Okay. That-
And I think it will be very helpful for the listening public to know that our meetings that are being broadcast live on Channel 16 will also be rebroadcast several times between the next meeting. And, I just welcome input from the public. I've been trying to find some already. I know Pauline and I are working on our Facebook pages even, looking for input. And I wouldn't say we have too many suggestions yet, but I'm sure those will be coming soon. But anyway, I really encourage the public to get involved and help us improve our city charter.
And include the link also.
Madam Chair, if I may, we'll put it in the press release, but I'll announce it here if I may, that written comments or input can be received directly or emailing to the City Attorney's Office, attention Charter Revision Commission, at 224 West 9th Street, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57104. We've set up a specific email address, and that will be included in the press release, but also I'll say it here. All one word, all characters together, Charter Revision Comments at siouxfalls.org. And again, I would say, I think 3 days in advance of any meeting would be very helpful to the group.
Okay. Public input.
Madam Chair, I had Joe Kirby, who actually had drafted the original charter, contact me and requested that he be allowed to speak to the group today, and maybe more for the viewing public's benefit than anyone else in terms of talking about how the charter came about and give a little more history to give us kind of a context as we're going forward. I know many of you were involved in the charter's adoption, but perhaps some of the public, now that it's been 16 years later, history escapes us over time, and I think maybe some of his comments would certainly be helpful.
Hello?
Is this Mr. Kirby?
Yes, it is.
All right, you are live with our Charter Revision Commission.
Okay.
Hi, Joe. This is Pauline. You can go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. And we're all
I
here.
just wanted to, at some point, talk to the Charter Review Commission a little bit about a couple issues that have come up in over the past many years. I'm For some of those of you who don't know, I wrote the first draft of the charter back in 1994, I think it was, with and then Dale Froelich and I and a host of others worked to get it ready for the voters to consider, I think in September of 94. And one of the biggest changes we've seen since the voters adopted the charter has been the role of the city council. The original intent was a part-time policy-making and legislative body which would avoid management and administrative duties. We envisioned a job taking 10 to 15 hours of work a week, and the Argus Leader and a bunch of citizens groups were very excited about that concept because the theory was anyone could serve and not just those who have a bunch of extra time on their hands. And I know over the years that have passed since then, the job has changed significantly because of battles between the mayor and the city council, but I still think it's an attractive concept to consider. How can we cut back the role of the city council so that more citizens can afford to serve, more citizens will be eligible to serve. So that's just a thought I'd like to pass on to the Charter Review Commission. I'm not sure what can practically occur, but it's a concept worth considering. Should I go on to the second issue?
Go ahead.
Okay. The second issue I wanted to bring up is something I came across about a year ago, a way of voting that might make more sense for our city, instant runoff voting, which is also called ranked choice voting. And it's used in a number of cities in the United States, plus elsewhere in the world, a number of countries in Europe and Australia as well. Yeah, basically, it allows people to, when there's multiple candidates for a single office, they express their preference on first, second, and third choice. The net result is that you end up with a winner that's popular with a number of the voters, as opposed to what sometimes happens in Sioux Falls, where you get kind of a surprise result. Over the years, I've seen, as you all have too, where you end up with a number of candidates maybe in the middle ground beating up each other and splitting the vote, and you get candidates more on the fringe advancing to the runoff, and then the runoff sometimes can be between two candidates which aren't very popular with a majority of the people. So instant runoff voting has been growing in popularity as a way of dealing with third-party candidates and other spoiler effect issues that have come up in plurality voting. And so I'd like the Charter Review Commission to take a look at that as something we should consider maybe for at least mayoral elections, if not city council elections as well.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes. Mr. Kirby, this is Dee Knudsen speaking, and thank you so much for your input today. And by the way, I thought your history of the charter process was very interesting and helpful. So thank you for writing that for our city. But anyway, I was wondering regarding your ranked choice voting proposal, are there any other comparable size cities in the Midwest that use ranked choice voting, and if so, would you tell us a little bit more?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know St. Paul just had their first election using ranked choice voting last month, I think it was, or earlier. Yeah, it was earlier in November, I think. And I think it worked out well from what I read in the newspapers. Minneapolis has also used it. There were 5 or 6 cities that used it for the first time in November this year. So it's a concept that's growing, and I think we'll hear more about it. And I think it's worth considering for Sioux Falls.
And
I was just looking on the internet to get some information before you called, and I saw that Alaska voted. I don't know whether they passed it, but they were considering a measure in 2002 to adopt it for all their state elections.
And Mr. Kirby, would you, Dee Knudsen again, would you please share? I didn't quite understand the gist of your first suggestion, something about cutting back on time for city councilors, or would you just explain that a little better? I'm sorry, I didn't really understand that real well.
Well, let me give it a shot. Yeah, the original, if you recall, the former form of government we had was a city commission where we had 5 separate fiefdoms, if you will. we had 5 separate city commissioners who operated as a group and worked together to run the city. We didn't have a strong mayor. We had one of the 5 was a mayor, but each of them had various city departments to run. And sometimes that became dysfunctional, and they couldn't provide leadership as a group when we were considering issues. I don't know if you remember the ambulance debate and some of those other debates that went around the city that without a single person leading the charge for the city, there was often inability to move forward. So the idea was to come up with a new form of government, taking a look at all the alternatives available, which the League of Women Voters did very well for us. And the strong mayor city council form was the one that the group that came together felt would best suit Sioux Falls. They envisioned some sort of the mayor would basically run city government, and then there'd be a citizens group called the city council, which would be very part-time. They would not be required to have offices or staff. They would meet infrequently, and it'd be 10 to 15 hours a week was the concept that was envisioned. And as you know, over time since the charter was adopted in 1994, city council members have battled with the mayor and made the job bigger and bigger to the point it's almost a full-time job for some of the city council members. So the concept I would endorse is that maybe your group could take a look at ways to reduce the role of the city council members so they don't have to spend so many hours working to do the job right.
Mr. Kirby, on the Deacon Knudsen again, is regarding the first suggestion. Again, thank you so much for your suggestions. Is it, I mean, I have been off the city council for 1.5 years, but as you well know, I served recently for 8 years, and
yes.
I didn't keep track of every hour. It was just a wonderful opportunity and so forth, but I never, ever felt like it was close to full time. I mean, I worked I worked with a very good group of working city councilors, just like they do, just like there are today, very conscientious city councilors on our council today also. But I'm just saying personally, I didn't feel like I didn't feel like it was ever close to a full-time job. I felt like it was just right. So anyway, that just a thought from me.
That could be. I've talked to. I'm a friend with one of the council members now who was describing to me how she had to get off some volunteer boards that she was on because of the surprisingly large number of hours that was required in her capacity to serve on the city council. So I may be wrong. I just thought it was worth bringing up for your group to consider. What is the role today of the city council member versus what was adopted basically by the voters and drafted by the people that put the concept together originally? It'd be worth looking into.
Joe, could you send, this is Pauline, could you send links on the voting runoff to David Fifley?
I will do that.
And then we can
Yes.
get that to the
There's
members
some very
of the
helpful
commission.
links. Minnesota Public Radio or National Public Radio has done about a 1-minute explanation of what it is, and there's a group called Fair Vote that's been promoting this for years. So I'll send those links to Dave, and then he can get them out to the commission members.
Great. Any other questions for Joe?
Mr. Kirby, Deacon Knudsen, I do not have a question for you, but I was just curious in the last couple of years if you had heard any other suggestions from, any colleagues, friends, or for input for us to consider.
No, I think that's the extent of it. It's kind of funny. I'm identified, at least by some of my friends, as being responsible for anything that goes wrong in city government nowadays. The biggest complaint I get is that the elections don't go quite as some people would like to see. So that it seems like the instant runoff voting would be a real improvement in the way we elect, and we might end up with more popular office holders, maybe a more fair way of electing. I guess the best analogy I can think of, as I've been reading about it, is on the national level, if we used instant runoff voting, third parties would not be able to spoil presidential elections. For instance, the Ralph Nader effect, dragging down the Democratic candidates, or I can't remember the other fellow that ran that kind of dragged down the Republican candidate. It takes away the spoiler effect of third-party candidates or third or fourth candidates as we have in our city elections.
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, that's
Yeah.
the name.
And Sue Roust, I'm sure, would have some good input
Yep.
on this also.
It's interesting to read the groups that support this. You'll see that on one of the links, but I mean it's a number of liberal groups, a number of conservative groups, libertarian groups. It seems to be a popular concept across the spectrum, not just one party or the other.
So Dave, is this an item that we would have the authority to decide, or would we need some approval from peer to be able to do this within the state?
Bob, I'd need to check state law, and I'd certainly want Sue Rouse to weigh in on it. I gave Sue a heads up that this would be at least initially discussed today out of courtesy to her. And I want to meet with her too, and we can talk about whether we can do it in light of state law. But again, the charter is designed so we can take as much local control as possible, and certainly, on a local election, you'd have to argue maybe. I don't know. I don't know the answer yet, but it's certainly worth exploring.
Yeah. The home rule powers, at least back when we drafted the charter, were very supportive of cities doing whatever they wanted to do with few restrictions. It was a way to basically write your own rules.
Joe, this is Dick Gregerson.
Hi, Dick.
I don't know if you remember, I served in that committee too that you chaired. You know, back
Yes,
in,
I do.
Yeah. Back in those days, you remember, I think anyway, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the language we picked up, or you picked up, came from a town or city that had a city manager, not a mayor. Is that correct?
Which language are we talking about?
Well, the city charter.
Yes.
I seem to remember that the committee followed some language from a city that had a city manager and not a mayor, strong mayor.
Well, the original charter was taken from the 7th revised edition. I think I don't have it right here in front of me, but I've got it in my files. There was a draft charter available provided by the Urban League or some National Civic League, or I can't remember what the name of the group is right offhand. But we took their draft charter and basically plugged in language going with the strong mayor council form of government that the league proposed. So I don't recall copying any specific towns or cities. We just took the proposed model that was available.
Well, I may be wrong, but let me ask you another question then. Should there be a difference in the charter depending upon whether you have an elected mayor or, on the other hand, a city manager that's hired, not elected?
Well, I don't know. The concept was that the mayor would be basically the CEO, the chief executive officer, responsible for all administrative, operational responsibilities of the city. And then the the part-time policy-making board would be the city council. I don't think, the mayor under this concept could hire a chief of staff or somebody that would basically be equivalent to a city manager, I suppose. So I don't see that it would change it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kirby, Deacon Knudsen is, just to help you out on something a minute ago, I brought your wonderful document called Sioux Falls Improves Its Form of Government by Joe P. Kirby with me, and I believe that according to this document which you wrote, it says that I think that you and your group worked really hard with the Model City Charter 7th edition from the National Civic League. Does that sound familiar to you?
That's what I was struggling to find earlier. Yes.
I was just trying to help you there.
Yeah, that's what we started with. It was a very helpful document. And then we had a group of that had met a few times that Dick referred to, I think, 20 or 30 people across the board representation. And we debated which form of government would make sense, and then once we picked one, it was pretty, as I recall, it was unanimous, and we just plugged that into the model city charter.
You know, Mr. Kirby, another question I thought of a minute ago. It seemed like a few months ago, before I was appointed to the Charter Revision Commission, you had a recent editorial in our local paper, I think that's called the Argus Leader, about the Charter Revision, and I was wondering, am I remembering that correctly? I should have saved it, but I didn't know I was going to be serving on the commission.
Yeah, that letter pertained to the city council talking about assuming a new duty. As I understand it, they have now taken responsibility for approving contracts, which up until then they hadn't been doing. And so I wrote to remind people of the original concept of keeping the job small, and that the approval of contracts seemed to me to be a job that was envisioned for the mayor and the city staff, not for the city council.
Okay, thank you. I'd forgotten what the topic was. And by the way, I really appreciate your continued interest in the charter, because, you know, I wish more citizens were as, you know, involved as you are in this process. So thank you again.
Well, I have a selfish interest. We're moving back to Sioux Falls in April, so we're planning to spend more time there. And we love to see the city run right, which it has been running much better, I think, under the city council and mayor form of government.
Any other questions for Joe? Okay, thank you, Joe. If you can get those links to David, that would be super, and we appreciate your input.
Thank you, Pauline. I'm also sending Dave a copy of a summary that Dale and I used to provide to the city council members who were running for the election, the first couple classes of city council members that ran for election in the 1990s, kind of outlining how we saw the job functioning, along with some good editorials that were written by the Argus Leader back in the 1990s about the concepts they liked to see in the new form of government. I think it pertains to that first issue I discussed. What is the proper role for the city council?
Okay, good.
So just for your input, but I will send the links as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity today.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, one more. Joe, this is Dave Feifling. Would you mind if we posted that onto the city website so that the public
Not at all.
would know what
Not at all.
what the commission members are looking at as well?
No problem at all.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, any other?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I wonder if it would be a good idea to also include in our notebook the statutory authority for home rule, because it does have in there certain limitations. I think the biggest limitation is the taxing power. It's quite limited under home rule, but it might be a good idea if we could have that available too in our notebook.
Will do.
Any other input? Dee?
Yes, I am really pleased that at our very first meeting, we have two city councilors, Councilor Aguilar and Councilor Karski with us, and a very involved citizen, Cheryl Roth, and Cheryl, sorry about that. And I was just wondering if they had any thoughts for us, any input while we're here, and while they're here too.
Okay. Any other new business?
One other question, Madam Chairman. How do you want us to address, or how do you want to run the committee? Should we address all questions through you, or what?
Well,
As far
how would
as-
you? I'm open.
Well, sometimes you lose control if everything isn't directed through the chair.
Okay, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned about it anyway. No. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next time, 12/16 at 3:30.